All right, guys, welcome back to Ricky's Roundtable. This week, we have Gannon, we have Isaac. It's gonna be an awesome show. We got some awesome questions lined up for you. Big shout out to Discraft. They sponsored the show, so big shout out for them jumping on board. Also wanted to let you guys know that my foundation, the Sockibomb Foundation, is also a sponsor of the show. So we got a lot of support and really looking forward to continuous episodes and getting a lot of new guests on. So thank you guys for watching. Let's do it. All right, so first question, the most clutch moment you've had not on camera this season. Isaac, you can go first.
Oh boy.
Not on camera.
See, that's easy because I haven't been on camera a lot this season. So I think birdieing hole 17 at Eagles Crossing this past weekend because I was 16 over. And so birdieing the last two, 17, 18, got me to 14 over.
Small wins, you know.
It's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
All right, Gannon.
I don't know. The questions like this are so tough.
I know.
I feel like it's tough to pull it from the back of your
It
mind.
is, but
like,
Oh, I have another one.
you go ahead.
Yeah, so hole 17 at the Hideaway. I can't remember the last time I've gone around without getting a birdie.
Birdie free round.
At the Hideaway, it was birdie free until hole 17.
Oh, you
I got the
saved it.
one birdie.
That's clutch for
And,
sure.
That is a good one.
That was good.
Saved your birdie free round.
I think round one at Open to Austin this year, I started like 8 through 9 or something, or 9 through 10, something like that. And like I hit like a pretty good, 45 footer. Just felt nice to keep momentum going. I kind of had a rougher start to my season, so like, for me to kind of, it's always tough. I feel like to string birdies together, and then you're kind of challenged with a more difficult putt, and then to have to hit that putt and keep the momentum going. I feel like something like that was pretty clutch for me, even though it was early in the tournament.
Yeah.
It kind of set the tone for the entire event.
For sure. Mine, I'll share mine. Mine was just a social media kind of experiment with Yuli. We just filmed a Captain Raptor video, and we were like, I'm like, all right, let's ace this hole. I'll ace it forehand, you can ace it backhand. And so we got it on camera where I aced that same hole forehand, and he aced it backhand,
That's
and
sick.
then we posted it.
That's sweet.
I actually just watched that.
So that was fun. Yeah, that was super fun. So that was it was on camera, I guess, so it doesn't qualify as the legit answer. It was not like DGN, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
We're just changing the rules now. Okay.
They're back, and better than ever. The 2025 Discraft Tour Series lineup has arrived featuring the fan favorite Z-Swirl plastic. Swirly, grippy, and built for flight. Z-Swirl was a standout in 2020, and now it's here again for another legendary season. Support your favorite Discraft pros and bag a piece of disc golf history. These limited edition discs won't last long, so grab yours before they're gone. Available now at discraft.com.
All right, what's your guys' go-to pre-round meal before like a tournament or something? Like
I'll go first.
Okay.
I would say if I'm not cooking at home, if I'm going to get something, I'd probably say Jersey Mike's is just the go-to.
Yep.
It's kind of established itself as the best sandwich shop. And if you disagree with me, you're just wrong.
I agree.
Sorry.
I can agree with that.
But I either go for like just a pretty basic like turkey, provolone, and then like tomato, lettuce, mayo, or I go like a Philly cheesesteak. Those are super good there. So either that, or if I'm at home, probably like a steak even.
Yeah.
Mine's steak and eggs.
Yeah.
I love
it's
steak
good.
and eggs. Yeah,
Yeah.
just with a little smoothie maybe. And
fire.
yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah. If I'm cooking, it's definitely eggs and bacon. But then if I'm shooting well in a tournament, I'll get the same thing.
Yeah, you can't mix it
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
I remember at Ledgestone last year, I was playing pretty solid. I got Texas Roadhouse 5 nights
Oh,
in a
you
row.
got to, yeah. Because you don't want to
Yeah.
mess with your head and be like, oh, I mixed
know,
it up,
like,
and
hey,
give yourself that weird thought. Like,
Shot a
maybe-
1070 today. Let me get another
Yeah.
Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Texas Roadhouse.
It's
Yeah.
the rolls.
breakfast?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
no,
it's
after the
lunch,
round,
yeah.
but like I kept it going
Yeah.
5 days in a row.
Yep.
I remember going grocery shopping with you one time, and then freaking the cart was literally Skittles, freaking Starburst, and M&M's. It was
when I was
like
12, I don't know.
every food group was like candy.
That's if you
That's so funny.
run into the Finnish players at Walmart.
Yeah.
That's literally all. They are.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah, the Finnish players are actually, I feel like, pretty
No, they
bad.
are. They are.
Yeah.
Like, you will never catch them without an energy drink in their hand.
Oh, it's crazy.
like,
Yessie?
They're
Dude,
Yessie,
yeah.
dude. I was
Any
joking
of
with
them,
them.
any
Like,
of them.
what color monster you got today?
Yeah, Red Bull, any energy
Yeah.
drink, they always have them.
Well, because they have have you had the batteries? And
those,
no,
okay,
No.
those are good, but
No.
not as good as ours, I don't feel like. Our energy drinks are definitely better. But yeah, it's funny. Like the next time we go over there, we should all just bring like a freaking case
Yeah.
of them and just be like, "Hey, I was selling to
There you
you
go.
these monsters and stuff."
$100 a piece.
I know. It's funny. You don't see like Americans drinking them that much.
No.
Sometimes, but like it's
I think
guess.
I've had like 2 energy drinks my whole life. Like,
Well, it's like the restaurant. Like people come here and they're like, oh, let's go to KFC, and you're like, nobody goes there.
dude,
I don't think
I've never
ever-
even been to a KFC
I've
in my
never
whole
been to
life.
KFC
Yeah,
either.
but like
It's
they
one of
love
the
it 'cause
major,
Yeah.
They love
fast
that.
food chains.
If you could design your own signature hole on any piece of property, what would it look like? Just one hole, like your favorite, like the most picturesque hole, like landscaping. Would you have like uphill? Would you have
It
downhill?
doesn't have to be like an existing property.
Nope.
We can just make it.
Yeah. Would it like just
Okay.
just to like
I got
to
it.
challenge the
Yeah.
best players in the world?
Yeah. I would go, so I'm a big fan of like when you're in the woods with tall trees without branches. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia has a lot of them. Tampa Bay Disc Golf Center, like that back nine is full of those tall, skinny trees with no branches. So,
Yep.
like disc golf like that is super pure. So I'd do something like that with those type of trees. I'd make probably like, I'd make a par 4 for sure. I'd give like 2 options, so you can go left or right to give like a backhand turnover line or maybe like a forehand line. With green grass fairways, that's a must, especially in the woods. It looks so awesome.
It does.
I'd probably, you know, give like a little bit more of an aggressive option, whether that's like a little like ravine in the middle of the fairway. You can go short or go over to force you to make a decision, and then have some type of built-up green that's maybe even sloped with, you know, maybe a pond or something on one of the sides, like just the dream
Yep.
hole. I love par 4s that require a really like aggressive shot off the tee, and then it gives you a little bit of an easier second shot.
So for me, I really like that. I feel like the most challenging gaps and stuff like on a par 4 is like offset gaps. So anytime you have an offset gap that's kind of straight or even like a little bit dogleg, it just makes it that much more challenging as opposed to just like straight.
Yeah.
And you still have the pure line to where you're not gonna hit limbs or anything. So I like an offset gap. Like Gannon said, I definitely like a green. I think raised up greens are something we need to utilize more as opposed to raising up the basket.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
but obviously most courses don't have that option. They just have to put the pole way up in the air and
Yeah.
put the basket up there. But it looks cool. Like Blue Ribbon Pines, you played there. Like that. I like a lot of those greens are really
Yeah,
cool. Like
for
how
sure.
they're just like kind of built up, like tiered greens.
I mean, even like I said, Tampa Bay was like,
Uh-huh.
they actually have man-made built-up greens.
Yep.
Or Eagles
Yeah, that's
Crossing
crazy.
is just like, it's insane.
It's becoming more of a thing where
Yeah.
it never used to be.
It looks so nice.
But yeah, so I think offset gap for me, and then raised up green, and just kind of forcing a shot into the green to where you have to hit a landing zone to have a putt. Otherwise, you're kind of maybe falling off a side, and just kind of puts a premium on the drive more than anything because you're not going to be able to just scramble and get yourself up there for a
Yep.
putt. You're going to be down 50, 60 feet away, and so I think that if you change the greens, it changes how people attack the drive, and so it's just. Yeah, it all starts from the tee pad and it all starts from the design. But hopefully one day I get to do it. That'd be a fun project.
Yeah, we can all
What's
three
your hole?
design
Yeah.
our course.
Mine is going to be a par 3, and the one that comes to mind is D-Glow hole 5, where it's slightly downhill. I want that fairway, just straight trees, no branches in the way, green grass, probably like a little creek in the middle with a nice little bridge, and like you said, a little bit of some terrain on the green. But I love shots that make you either throw make you throw a mid-range really hard.
Yeah.
Because the mid-range, there's not so much right to left turn. If you can hit it right, it's just such a pretty flight. And you can't really get that with like a fairway driver because fairway drivers kind of get a little more right to left movement.
For sure.
And so throwing probably like a 425-foot dead straight mid-range, slightly downhill is just, I think, the ideal hole.
I put some mountains in the back too.
Yeah. It's a backstop to ace run it and then just hit a mound.
I like
preserve.
What is it?
That
16
one hole
at
preserve.
at the fort in Utah has
Yeah.
like the mountains in the back. It looks so nice.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Or like the backstop, like preserve that one tunnel shot.
Oh,
You can just hit that like mound right behind
Oh
it.
yeah. Is
so
that
you don't-
5 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
So you can get like a free ace
Yeah,
run
that's
kinda.
that's also a great hole.
All right. Would you rather play in 30-mile-an-hour winds or complete pouring rain?
Wins.
That was quick. I think
I don't know. I kind of enjoy both because they're so miserable to a
Right.
point where everyone's like just in the same boat of it's just horrible and there's really nothing you can do. I mean, on one hand, like the wind is so unfair and unpredictable. Like it's
Right.
like
You
some hilarious stuff happens.
right, that you don't normally see.
Yeah.
I would say like if I want a fair competition, I'm gonna go rain.
Yeah.
But I feel like I probably have
More
a
fun.
better time playing in the wind just because it's like, I don't know. It just requires some type of skill, like, being able to throw further and having overstable plastic helps a lot. But
It's also less miserable, like feeling wise.
Yeah, oh,
Like
yeah,
you
like,
don't.
And when it's rainy, it's almost always cold too.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
more
It's just
mentally
terrible.
miserable.
It looks like
in
that's
the
what
wind,
this
you know,
weekend's gonna be
instead of
like.
physically.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be windy this weekend.
Windy, rainy, cold.
So we get both.
We get all three.
Yeah,
all of them.
perfect. I'd rather do wind for sure. I just feel like you have more. I just want to have a grip. You know, like when you lose your grip, like that's the worst. When you just like everything feels like it's literally just gonna fall.
Like
right
when it's cold outside, you're running out of towels, and then like you're drying off your disc, and it just is still wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
The
you can't
towel
even like
just-
wave it.
yeah, it
like,
just
right
smears
off.
the
It's
water
just-
around.
I mean, especially for like, you guys have like more of a fan grip
Yeah.
compared to like I have a power grip, so I can kind of manage a little bit better in the wet because power grip doesn't really get affected as much. But like I can't imagine having a fan
Oh
grip.
yeah, it
and
slips
it's
out.
so terrible.
It is. It
you're
slips
so
out
reliant on
earlier.
like the texture of the plastic. And,
Yeah, the grippiness of the disc.
Yep.
Gannon's favorite word.
This guy, like, I swear, only instead of
Gotta have
saying
grippy.
stiff and gummy, he says
Grippy.
slick or grippy. So like, not even
yeah.
the same thing.
That's funny. All right. Who do you think has the best sidearm in the game right now? Can't answer yourself.
Okay, well, I think he was
That's
going
easy.
to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Me too. Now that he's Mr. Sidearm guy, seen him throw like 5 of them last tournament.
I'm gonna say an underrated forehand that I think is really, really good is Evan Smith.
Yeah, I totally agree.
He's got
has
a big
so-
forehand.
he
He
so
has-
much power.
He doesn't look like it, but he crushes the disc. Yeah.
It's really good.
I think power he honestly up there for power and control because he can like hit gaps with ton of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not so much touchy. He's
No,
just
yeah.
big,
But he can hit
big
gaps though. Like
forehand.
I see like he was like when I played with him, he would hit gaps with power and just like not miss the gap. I think it's the North Carolina
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah.
He's like the sidearm version of you sometimes. Like
Yeah.
North Carolina just playing in the woods.
Yeah.
You played George in the backhands. He played
Yeah.
He's just
forehand in
like
North Carolina.
underrated as a player.
He is
He
for
is.
sure.
He's 1040 rated. There's only 10 people in the world that are like
he's
that.
solid.
so.
Yeah, he's really solid. Silent killer kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm between Rick and Sullivan Tipton. I've seen Sully. Obviously, like you have just such a good power. I mean, some of the craziest just power hyzers, which are super good. And then you also have like, you throw kind of like that zone style of a disc and can kind of just shape any line. And obviously, like the scrambling ability, like just speaks for itself in the stats. So like all those are good to have. But then like Sully on the other hand can forehand like any stability of any disc,
shot.
any speed. I mean, he throws a soul on like a spike hyzer
Yeah.
forehand and can control it. And I mean, I've seen him throw forehands from 70 feet before. And dude,
Almost
we were
like
at Olympus this year playing practice round. And he literally like 4 holes in a row from like 100 feet just made it. He was like, oh, let me just toss it in. He just makes it forehand. Like
That's
he's just
awesome.
so accurate.
Yeah.
And,
And he
at his
can-
prime, he has some of the most power I've ever seen. He's gone over 500 feet before.
Oh, for
easily.
sure. And he can just play a whole round forehand. Like there's not that many
Oh,
people
yeah.
can just score
yeah.
well. Like
we're
you're
trying
like,
to get him to play more backhand
Right.
rounds, and he's had a really good season because of that, I believe. But I mean, we'll go through our rounds, at the Airbnb after the round, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I threw 1 backhand tee shot today." I'm like, "How is that possible?"
Right.
And you shot an 8 down.
Right,
like,
yeah, exactly.
What's your answer? You have
My
an answer?
my answer, yeah, I guess I kind of because I was playing with Evan, so I would say part of me wants to go that route. But I mean, so I think Sullivan just be like for the simple of the utility, like Gannon said, he can throw far, he can throw accurate, and he can throw it on literally he can throw every shot forehand,
Yeah.
and controlled distance and consistency too. Like he doesn't
Oh, he doesn't shank.
he doesn't
ever,
shake.
no.
He's like some people throw forehand, they'll throw like a turf one or they'll throw one up. Like he throws like line drive, perfect line every time. He's just got such a good like wrist action with it. So yeah, I would say Sully, and Evans right there with him. So everyone's had kind of some standout moments from the beginning of the season till now. What's kind of changed and how have you kind of evolved from the beginning of the season to kind of, I guess, a quarter of the way through the year where we're at now?
Already a quarter of the way.
Seems like
crazy.
it, right?
Yeah, I think
Kind of
it-
almost.
I mean,
yeah, I
we
think we'd say
only
we're a quarter.
have-
I'd say maybe a fifth. Yeah,
feel like,
fourth,
yeah.
a fourth
It's
or a
crazy.
fifth. Yeah, for sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's kind of changed from the start till now?
For me, I feel like I'm finally settled on like a bag.
Yeah,
Like
that's
for me,
tough.
like early in the season, there was just so much changing in my bag. Whether that was like putters or mids or fairways, like literally my whole bag would change.
Yeah.
Every week, and that's hard with being able to throw 3 different companies. It's like
Too many options.
there's too many options, and they're all so good, and so it's really just like feeling everything out. But I feel like my bag has really solidified in the past probably 3 weeks, and so I think that is just a good sign for moving forward to the rest of the year, just having the same discs. So that's mine.
Cool. What about you, Gannon?
Yeah, I think just accepting like a couple things. One, the level of play every week is just getting incredibly higher, it feels like. And the other thing is Also, just accepting that it's really hard to be on your A game every week. You know, I obviously had really high hopes or high expectations coming into the season because of what happened last year. And, you know, I played really solid so far, but, you know, it's so hard to maintain a really high level of play in any sport. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
obviously, you know, the cream still rises to the top. You know, I'm still one of the best players. You know that as well. All three of us do. But like sometimes, like you just go into like a month or two, like I guess you could call it a slump, where you just like you can score. Yeah, exactly. Like you can score, but like there were times last year where I knew exactly where the disc was going every time, and I made almost all my putts, and it felt like
there was no uncertainty.
Yeah, it felt like I was just like I knew exactly I was in full control my whole game. And my problem this year has been like I play a pretty solid round, and I have one shank that cost me 2 to 3 strokes. And that builds up over 3 or 4 rounds. So instead of, you know, I was getting those wins before, you know, now, you know, I've had a couple tournaments this year where I've lost by, I think I've lost by 1, 2, and maybe 3 this year already. So like, I've been so close, but you take one shank away per round and I'm right there for the win, and my whole season would be different. Right. So I think just the level of play, the consistency factor, it's just really tough to keep that repeatable.
For sure, yeah. No, that makes all total sense. And just like you said, any sport, you're gonna have ebbs and flows, and it's all about like, whenever you get in that hole, is how do you get back out of it?
Yep.
And that kind of determines if you're going to have a good, you know, season, you know, which is obviously what everyone wants. You want to have a good tournament, you want to have a good stretch of tournaments, and also within that, you want to have a good whole season, you know. And within that, like as you know, even last year, like I'm sure you went through little slumps within yourself, within a round or a tournament. Yep. So it just happens. It doesn't matter, you know, who you are, but it's you know, that's kind of what determines consistently who's going to be your best player.
It's so funny. My mom sometimes she'll be like, I don't know, she'll kind of blame it on something else, but I'm like, Mom, no matter what I do, this week I'm just gonna play bad. It's just how it's just how it works. Yeah,
it's weird.
It's just how sports works. Like you can grind at the field, you can grind the basket for as long as you can the entire day.
And it's like there's a force field around you that
you're still just gonna play bad that week. And like that's kind of been my curse at like the World Championships, honestly. Is like the last 3 years I've been like playing pretty good disc golf going into the World Championships. I get there the week of, I'm like, oh dang, my form feels off. I'm screwed.
Right.
And then it just happens to be like, I can't fix it.
That little bit of doubt, and then it turns into
2 weeks later, I'm back to where I was. So it's like, it's just, you know, I got to pick a better time to play good disc golf.
I know, it's just all about random timing too. Like
that's how it feels for sure.
And that's like whenever you win a tournament, oh, you played so good that week. Like you love that course. You're like, I mean, yeah, the course is great, but it just happened to be. It was my week. Like you said, there was no doubts. There was no force fields of like, you know, I have my form's off, my putt's off, whatever it is. It's just like, nope, I just happen to be in Portland or I happen to be in Nashville, wherever.
We've all been like heaters where like, you know, you birdie whatever, like 10 of the first 12 holes, and you're like. And it feels wrong to miss a hole. And then there's tournaments where you just want to get a birdie.
Please.
But
8 for 9 pars. And you're like, what the heck?
Every time I'm on a heater, I'm like, why can't I do this every single week? It's so easy.
Like the saying, the best saying I've ever heard for like golf, disc golf, is like, whenever you have it, you feel like you're never going to lose it. And whenever you lose it, you feel like you're never going to get it back.
Exactly. That's
like with your game, like with your putt or like your drive or forehand, whatever it is. Because like, obviously, your game's composed of like 3 different assets.
Exactly.
Like driving, you know, upshots and putting, basically.
It's such a different type of sport just because, like, if you compare this to something like basketball, you know, basketball is so fast-paced. There's not time to think about or really get nervous for a catch-and-shoot 3 for the win. Like, it just happens so quick. Where in disc golf, you have all the time in the world to think. You have so many more swing thoughts, I think, and that gets in my head all the time. So it's just a different style of game, and I think with the game we play, there's going to be more ups and downs just naturally.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, and you know, you see it in golf. Like Rory hasn't won a major in 12 years. He just won, and like he's still one of the best players, even though he didn't win a major. He was still one of the best players.
Didn't he have the most double bogeys of any Masters champion, which is just crazy. Because you can't do that in disc golf.
No, right,
dude. And it's so weird. Bogeys. If it's a final round in disc golf and you're trying to get the win, if you take one bogey, you're out.
Yeah, you're dead. Unless we're playing like a super hard course.
Exactly.
This.
Even then, sometimes people just birdie everything. It's like, how are you doing that?
Well, because people know, like, you know, and that's why there's so much fluctuation too. Is like if you're going for the win, if you're playing those shots to win, the margin for error is so thin that if you miss a couple, you're going to get 20th place.
I want to know.
Because someone that's just going to lay up on that shot that you go for it, you go OB, and all of a sudden, you know, you're in 20th place, and you're trying to win, but like those people that laid up just passed you.
I mean, Waco this year, I remember I got 5th place. But if I took one more stroke worse, I would have been in 12th.
Yeah.
7
Yeah,
spots
that's
for
wild.
one stroke at the top.
That's crazy.
It's like
Crazy.
disc golf's just in a
Razor
insane spot
thin.
right now.
And then
Yeah.
on top of it, like our courses are so so tight. Like your
Specific,
OB, so
yes.
specific. The raised baskets, the OB on every side, like, and so it's just it adds to the dramatic effect. I think it's good for spectators for sure.
For
'Cause
sure.
They can see one stroke either tie you with 5 people or like tie you below with 5 people.
wild,
You know,
man.
So all right, Isaac, this one's for you. It seems like on camera when people watch you and obviously competing against you, it seems like you're very calm under the pressure and you've got a lot of poise. Tell us what goes in your mind when you get into those pressure moments and how you handle that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely varies. I think a lot of time you just try to turn off all emotions. And for me, I think I can do that pretty easily, like during a round. If I'm playing well, just shut off everything and just focus on the shot. And when I win tournaments, I realize that's what's going on. But it makes it hard to you kind of have to dig yourself back out of that.
Yeah.
You know, like when you celebrate and when you win the tournament, it's like you can finally let yourself breathe again. And so really just shutting off all feelings, whether it's good or bad. When I'm shooting well, I tend to get really, really excited.
Yeah.
And then that'll mess me up because I'll start getting in my head. I'll be like, oh, I got to make this 20-footer.
Too high and too low.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
And so if you just try to keep it even keel the whole way, that's my goal and that's what I try to do.
With your girlfriend too?
Yeah, well, wife.
Just kidding, wife.
Wife now.
I'm just kidding. Again, what do you have to say about that?
Like how I handle pressure, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. It's I think for me, I actually thrive on the pressure. I actually want to know what the difference is between my final round versus my first 2 rounds or whatever, because I almost always seem to shoot better in the final round. I've actually had kind of a tough time this year getting nervous, and I think that's actually something to have is a lot of players talk about it, diamonds are made under pressure basically. So
for sure.
I think whenever I'm feeling nervous, I almost lock into a different state where I get very specific. I'm only focusing on what I want to do, versus where when I'm kind of, I'm not nervous, I'm kind of focused on, what
could
to do,
happen.
or what could happen, what's the worst that could happen, instead of just being locked in, focused on my game plan. Whenever I'm really locked in, disc golf, shot shaping, exactly where I want to place the disc, just calculates in my mind in half a second. I already know what to do. I don't even have to explain it to myself. And I think, for how I handle the pressure is just take deep breaths when I am nervous. But I always try to use it as a good thing instead of turning it into a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that, to kind of expand on that is whenever you're first coming up, as you experience and both of you guys, whenever you first get on lead card, that feeling you get is holy crap, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then you it let you affect negatively, your putts are coming out early, your drives are shaky.
Yep.
And then the more you get yourself in that position, you feel more comfortable, like what Gannon was saying. And the more times you get on that lead card, you get nervous, you fail, you get nervous, you fail, and then you slowly kind of build up some sort of tolerance, so to say, to where you
for
feel
sure.
more, you still, it's not that you don't get nervous, but you just feel more comfortable under that same feeling. As opposed to some rookie on tour, let's take a random player I don't know, Braden Sides or something, a younger player like him. If he just were to all of a sudden make lead card at the World Championships, I'm not saying he would, but he might get super nervous and not play well.
Yeah.
But then if he did it again the next year, it's going to be a little better.
Probably feel better and better.
And so that's why that's where kind of the experience, not even physically, but mental experience too. That's something people don't talk about. And so that's kind of what your experience. The more you make it on the lead card, that's just experience that helps you for the future. And you learn how to manifest that into something positive as opposed to your first time was something negative.
I think there's been times where I look at other players and they just make the game look so easy. But I always think they're probably thinking the same thing about me.
Oh yeah.
I think we all, and I always find it funny as pros, if we're watching coverage or even we're playing around together, we have a windy 25-footer, we make it, we're oh, best putt ever, let's go.
Yeah.
But to the fans watching, they're oh, it's a pro, it's just routine.
Yeah.
They don't know, but it feels amazing for us.
For
So
sure.
We still get just hyped for those type of shots.
And and the players that that make that look easy under the pressure are players like Calvin and Paul and you and Isaac, and those are all players that over the last handful of years have made a ton of lead cards. The players that make it not look so easy, that make it look challenging, are the players that feel super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like they just aren't
Yeah.
aren't comfortable, so it manifests in bad play.
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes back to what we were saying. Like almost all the players that are good like that under pressure
Yeah.
are just kind of have that experience
I think
mentally.
a big thing for me is just like telling myself that like, you know, I'm meant to be here. You know, like I like if you tell yourself that like, oh, it's a fluke, I'm here, or like, you know, usually I don't make lead card. Like you gotta treat yourself like you belong on that card. You earn that position, because if you don't, you're just gonna see the people get birdies in front of you, and that's gonna get in your head. So I think understanding that, you know, we all played the same round. We're all here. We're all playing great. You have to have that mindset.
And then you can do it again.
You can do it again for sure.
It doesn't matter if the cameras are
Right. On the next hole, on the next round, on the
Yep.
next tournament, whatever that next is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Gannon, this one's for you. You've been obviously rising up in the game and had a lot of great years coming up. So just wanted to ask you a question about kind of transpiring from a young phenom to kind of like face of the sport and winning titles and a title contender. So what's the transgression of that, the mindset physically and mentally, and what you've kind of understood and seen from your experience with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think early on, like, I kind of had those doubts of like I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to like, you know, I know I could probably make it on the Pro Tour, but I didn't know how many times I'd end up winning or stuff like that. You know, obviously we all dreamed of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like you said, as I got on more league cards, I felt more comfortable. I felt more like I belonged. And when I finally kind of understood that, you know, I've worked hard to be here, I earned this spot. You know, I really started to feel that toward the end of last year. At the end of last year, I got into a mindset where it didn't matter what happened in the first round at all. I could be 5 off the lead. I could have a triple bogey. Like, I just knew I was going to be in contention no matter what on that final day. So I think the mindset naturally shifted over time just from the experience I've had over the last, you know, 2-3 years of being in contention, you know, at multiple events every single year. So, but yeah, I'm at a point where I know I'm one of the best players in the world. I know my skill set, and I think, yeah, I mean, I just gotta be so thankful to have amazing friends on the tour as well to help push me. You know, my group is very competitive as well. So every single weekend, whether it's practice rounds or even in the tournament when we play against each other, it's always like a constant battle to keep me pushing forward. My best rounds are when I have pressure.
Sweet. Awesome. Good deal. All right, this question is for everybody. What players do you kind of use to kind of push yourself? So like, do you look up to somebody to kind of emulate a certain part of their game? I know I've done that. That's kind of what athletes do. Do you use somebody to kind of emulate, or just someone that you look up to that kind of to level up your game?
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of changed over the years. I would say last year, 2023 and 2024 have kind of been where I looked up the way that Kristen carries herself on the course, where she knows that she is the best there, and she knows, and she walks like it. You can see it in like her demeanor. And so when I was on the course, I would try to kind of emulate that same attitude, where you just know that you're where you belong, and that you're gonna be the one contending to take it down. And then as far as like certain shots, a lot of times I'll imagine Gannon putting in my head, and I like our putts look nothing like, but I'll imagine be like just throw it like Gannon from circle 2, and that legitimately helped me so much in like 2023. And it was.
Are you talking about an
simple.
aiming point or like a
No,
flight?
just like I'm just like flat and hard, just like right at the basket.
Yeah.
So
Did you grow like 6 foot long fingers for that, or no?
Yeah, but like especially circle 2's, like his step putt, everything is just really good. And so I would imagine myself, I'd be like, all right, just do that, and it really helped. And this year, as far as like looking to players, Ezra, my brother, obviously, we have very competitive kind of head-to-head there.
Similar games too.
Similar games. He's a little more aggressive than I am, but now he's just somebody that I'm just trying to chase down.
Yeah.
Because he's never beaten me in points, and so I can't let that
Not gonna happen this year, huh?
No, so he's
off to a
somebody
good
I'm
start.
trying to chase him down.
He's off to a good start.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of my actual game, everyone knows I kind of modeled my backhand after Will Schusterick early on. It's obviously
a great person.
Pretty much everyone is kind of developed into their own form, whether you think it mentally, but you still might look like yourself pretty much. So Will was definitely my backhand form. In terms of forehand, I looked a lot at like Eagle when he was kind of in his prime forehand, kind of around like 2021, those kind of years. And same thing, it doesn't really look anything like it, but I try to keep similar fundamentals. And then I would say even for my putt, a little bit of Eagle, just because he has a lot of like late spin and snap on his putt. And so that's something I've developed over time. I've always been a pretty good putter, but kind of same thing there. If I ever have like an off putting weekend, I always just make sure I'm committing and snapping the putt. And then for players that push me, I would say Rick is definitely my number one person that in terms of whenever I'm coming into a final round or a battle or anything like that, I know that there's nobody else in the world that's going to give me more pressure pretty much. There are scary players, but I think you pretty much take the momentum and handle like those pressure moments. I feel like when I see you play, like you're not really even nervous, you're more just like locked in.
Yeah.
There are other players on the tour that are in the top 5 that I'm really not scared of when it comes to a final round because I know the history of it. Certain stuff like that.
Tendencies and how
exactly. But you've been such a veteran forever that it's like it really doesn't matter what happens. You can kind of come back at any point. And so
for sure. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I appreciate you pushing me to shoot some of my highest tournaments basically because I probably would have slowed up if it wasn't for that. So
kind of both,
exactly. We
up.
both just grow up for sure.
Yeah, and vice versa. I think a lot of it, obviously, with last year, me and Gannon pushing each other a lot helps both of us. Helps both of us get better. Helps both of us want to, be kind of crave the competition of like, Isaac, in there too, and obviously as sports progress, there's always different rivalries brewing, and I think that's the fun part as a player is you want to be a part of as many as you can, and that's kind of how the sport goes. It goes through different shifts of like. Every like 4 or 5 years, they'll get a different shift of players, and if you can,
and you're somehow still in it always.
Hey, that's the goal.
20 years later,
right? A million years later,
50 and he's still in it.
Exactly. But that just kind of goes into what your goals are. Obviously, I want to play as long as I can, compete as long as I can, and younger players that it always helps. And then when Gannon's in my spot, he'll have another Gannon to come up and push him, and that's the awesome progression of the sport is you're able to see that and thrive off and use it to your advantage and from the competition standpoint. And I think that's the beauty of our sport too is that I think it's a little bit longer than most other sports. I think maybe football obviously is probably the least. If you're my age and you're playing football, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, I mean you got to be basically a quarterback.
Exactly.
To last anymore.
Right. If you're a running back, you're pretty much dead by the time you're 25. Like seriously, like it's crazy the turnaround. Like if you're 30, you're not getting a contract in the NFL. You're done. So like. Whereas golf, like you just saw Rory, like he's, I think 35 or 40, something like that. And he just won a major, like, Justin Rose, 40 something. So I think golf's one of those to where it's kind of comparable to disc golf, but I think disc golf's obviously you have to throw far, you have to your body has to move real fast twitch muscles, almost more so than golf. So
that's what I love about the golf and disc golf so much and a few other sports. Even a little bit like basketball. I mean, LeBron is 40 years old. He's still doing windmill dunks. It's crazy. But that's obviously not super sustainable. But the thing is, in disc golf, basketball, it all takes, physical ability, but also a skill set, There, I mean, not that there's, in every sport, you have to have some type of skill set. But this could be me just not knowing much about something like football.
Yeah.
But I feel like, as like a linebacker or something, you just got to kind of be a big guy.
Bulky.
Obviously, you got to know what you're doing. But, there's not a ton of like really precise little
intricate
movements. When you have Steph Curry just making every single three-pointer. But he's also really physically talented. So it's like to have both, allows us to play a long time. You can kind of... I've always made jokes like when I'm 70 years old, I'll be able to throw my most understable disc like that soft and still get 450.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, it's not going to be as reliable, but I can still get it done if I need to. So I think disc golf is just amazing, and then in the way that it requires, like I said, a physical ability and then actual technique and talent and stuff like that in terms of shot shaping and putting and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. Has the mental game become more challenging as you climb up the ranks, Isaac, and obviously Gannon as well? I have my answer, and I just was curious what you guys thought. As your physical game got leveled up, did your mental game catch up quicker or slower than your physical game?
Yeah, I think kind of like we were talking about, the more experience that you have, the better your mental game gets. But then once you have kind of a lot of experience winning several tournaments, then you start to kind of have these doubts where you're like, well, I need to continue doing that. And so that's something I've kind of struggled with. Worlds coming up, for instance, it's like, I would love to go 3 times, but there's like these doubts where it's like, oh, you gotta be able to do it again, But then that kind of gets in your head a little bit. But I think in the long run, the more experience you have, the better, and just the more you play, the tougher your mental game gets. And when I'm playing really well, my mental game is really good because everybody has the skill. The top 25 people could win a tournament at any given time, but it comes down to the mental game and how you play the course. And so I think that's what really sets people apart, is how well they're able to control their head.
For sure. Yeah, I think that, that's for me the biggest thing is like what Isaac said. If you start lacking a little bit with your like physical play, and if you're confident in your games really well, like in a good spot, then your mental game will be there. Like what Gannon said, like you can shoot 3 over in the first round and feel like some people would feel like, oh, I'm never gonna catch up. But like if your game's in a good spot and you shoot 3 over, you're like, all right, that's fine. Like I'm gonna come back. But like it kind of compounds the error. If you're like not fully confident in yourself and your physical abilities, then your mental game will lapse, and then it's just this downhill spiral, which it's is I think everyone's kind of been in that spot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some more than others. And so you kind of got to dig yourself out of that to kind of get the snowball in the right direction, where you build a little confidence. Maybe you're putting not great, and you make like a 30-footer, and a little bit of uphill confidence, and it keeps going up, and then that kind of transpires into mental confidence, and then the physical and everything just kind of comes together. So for me, it's kind of those like we talked about in the beginning, those little wins. Sometimes those little wins can mean so much more. Yeah, you went from 16 over to 14 over after the last 2 birdies. Like, oh, whoop-de-doo. But like, it's those little wins with yourself that when you're not playing your best really make a huge difference, more so than just looking at the scoreboard and saying 14 over. You played horrible.
Gosh,
you're like,
sucks.
yeah, you're right. I didn't play horrible, but I also learned a lot for the future that for the World Championships. Like, if you bogey 2 holes in a row, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you get those couple birdies, you can kind of learn something from that. And and like I said, try to not be on the mental roller coaster.
And the worst feeling when you finish a round that's really tough is if you gave up halfway through.
Exactly.
It's the worst feeling
It is,
ever.
yeah.
You
feel like
get back
an
home and you're just like, what
Yep.
the heck?
What did I do? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because that's kind of you take the easy way out. If you're out of the tournament and you're like having to grind it out for like an 8th or 12th place finish, and you're just like, oh, there's nothing to play for, and everyone's done it, unfortunately, I feel like, but you just got to learn from it and say, you got to fight the urge to just have that, like, because that's kind of a double-edged sword. If you're a competitor and you're used to winning and you're not there sometimes, it's easy to just be like, let yourself go completely and just be like, all right, I'm gonna save my mental energy for the next week. Whatever happens this week, I'm not gonna be worried about it. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot to play for still. Even like there's points, there's obviously money, and just like you said, those battling to get those little wins with yourself. And not having that mental roller coaster, birdie bogey, and just trying to practice the pars and birdies and getting a lot of birdies and getting yourself just to get that feel.
Yeah, I'd say like something I always tell myself if I'm having a bad round or not playing my best is like kind of something similar to what Isaac said. At the end of the day, when you go to bed that night, you're going to be just regretting that you gave up, because that next morning you're going to wake up with a fire that you want to come back and shoot a hot round.
Exactly.
But imagine if you were 5 strokes better because you didn't give up midway through that second round. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I always tell myself, no matter what, that we don't play 3 rounds of 18. We play 54 holes. So it doesn't matter. At any point in that stretch, you can get hot. I remember European Open last year. I was playing pretty good, but I wasn't really near the lead. I finished my second round with 4 birdies in a row and started my round through with 6 birdies in a row. So that stretch of 10 holes in the tournament, I went 10 birdies in a row, and it kind of went under the radar because it was 2 different days.
Right.
But I think that has always stuck in my head because it can happen anytime. I think Nick lost actually at Music City this year. I think birdied his last 6 and started like 7 for 8.
Yeah.
So he had a crazy stretch where
Yeah.
he kind of went from nowhere. I think he was 6 back to start the round 2, and then now he's just in the lead.
Yeah.
So like just like that, you can always flip around your tournament. And I think I was kind of a weird one where I think my physical skill set actually developed after my mental skill set. Because I always, even remember playing amateur divisions, rec, advanced, intermediate, I would always have a really safe game plan. And then as my game progressed, where it was worth it to be more aggressive, a hole that sticks out to me is like 10 at USDGC. Once I got that 480-foot flex shot on lock, I knew it was worth it to go for it. Where my first year playing that tournament, I actually went for the layup every time. And I think it's, I think having a strong mental game is, not thinking too much about how to have a strong mental game.
Yeah.
You have a lot of players that are like, oh, what am I doing wrong? I gotta stay positive. Like, just don't get mad. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, don't think about your mental game, and you will play better almost every single time. That's my motto.
Yeah, just don't give up.
Yeah,
I think that's,
no, for
that's
sure.
my
Don't give up.
biggest
Yeah,
thing is just never give up.
It feels horrible. the
It does,
night
yeah.
of, it
Oh,
feels
for
horrible.
sure. It really
So
does.
bad.
It does.
At
It's
least
the
you
worst
can be
feeling.
proud of, maybe you finished bogey double, but then you go birdie, birdie, birdie. You feel okay about your day. You could have let that spiral a lot deeper than that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like you said, because you're just giving away strokes that the next day you may be in a mindset in a place where you could have won if you didn't give up the day before. All right, this one is who's someone on tour that doesn't get enough credit or maybe flies under the radar as far as their skill set based on maybe how they finish and how people perceive them.
There's so many.
You go first.
know.
I'm gonna pull up a list.
I know.
you
I
can.
feel
Yeah, you
like-
can.
Do you have a full list?
Oh,
of
you have an
people?
underrated list
Or
on
are
your
you just
phone?
looking
No, I was just gonna go to the standings.
Yeah. I mean, my
gonna
first
see.
one, I'll go with Evan Smith. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not.
See,
as
We
underrated
were all
anymore.
gonna say Evan
Yeah,
Smith. Okay.
Because his skill set is amazing. I mean, he can throw
Yeah.
every shot. He's not only people think he's just smooth. He's actually got like sneaky power
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like,
Good.
he can throw like just whip out a 500-foot forehand. He can throw
Yeah.
a bomb flex backhand. Like he's got all the skills.
Makes almost every putt.
He's got a really smooth, consistent putt where he's just right on line. He has a good height. He's got just good speed control, all that. So he's one of mine for sure, I would say. And then I think Sully's turned into that category
Sully
now,
is,
too.
dude. Sully's
Yeah.
getting up there.
Where
for
he's
sure.
people just think of him like the sidearm guy, but he can score. Like he doesn't just throw forehands. Like
He's been up there every event this year.
yeah. So that's cool to see that he's kind of breaking through and making his name known.
Is it Evan Smith will be the highest rated without a win now, I think.
I think
Crazy.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
then,
he hasn't won one.
No.
I mean, it feels like he has because he's been in contention a lot.
so many times.
Yeah.
He'll get one eventually.
Yeah.
I'm sure this year it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
happen. The other one that came to my mind was Adam Hammis. I think he's finally I think he's getting his head on straight. Finally, we all know he's had his ups and
For
downs
sure, yeah.
whenever he has good tournaments or bad tournaments, and he's almost got dead last at some times. So I think he's the only player this year that's got top 10 every event. So
Crazy, yeah.
really
Right.
impressive. He obviously has that win already this season. He seems to, do that every other year. It feels like. But it's obvious that Adam has the skill set to play good. Great backhand, one of the best forehands, and probably one of the best putts in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So he has all the skills. And now that his head's finally on straight and he's had a really good season coming forward,
You get some confidence.
he's just like, he's always been a player that's had it. He just needs to have the mental side of it. And he finally is getting that, I think. So
yeah, and
yeah.
he's the type of player where like you said last year, he would play like a series of bad events and then all of a sudden he'd get in contention and then win.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well he's the type of player. If he gets himself there, if he gets himself in position, he's going to capitalize.
He's actually
on
one
it.
of the clutchest players
for
I've
sure.
ever seen. He
Yeah.
honestly really hasn't
really
had
does.
like a not clutch moment.
No, he totally
Almost
does.
every time he has an opportunity for the win,
he takes
he's
it.
banging the
I mean,
putt.
that
Waco this
putt-
year.
Yep, Portland was
yep.
crazy.
He almost
That was
had no
wild.
hope, but he never gave up.
was
Aaron had a 130-foot up shot. And Adam had to make it his 55-footer from out of bounds uphill on an elevated basket.
That was wild.
He
Super
doesn't
hard to
give up.
putt.
He drains the putt, wins in the playoff, makes a putt there, and so he just has such a clutch factor. And he's actually kind of an anomaly because he hasn't won a ton, but when he gets in position to win, he almost always wins. It feels
For sure.
like.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I used to feel like that same way with Kale. Used to be like that back 10 years ago, kind of. Is like he didn't win a ton, but whenever he was in position, like he would win. He would hit that putt. He would he would take advantage for sure.
That's kind of a scary for us, Once that person gets a hold of that and can do that repeatedly, it's going to be scary.
Totally.
Yeah.
Who's
I
yours?
think, I don't know. There's so many I feel like you could choose from, but I feel whenever I play with Ben Calloway, I'm just so impressed with
his
the
skill
shots.
set.
Yeah, his putt is just clean. He throws a mile, and his forehand is really solid. And so I feel like he's somebody who people might look at Discraft and be like, they have all these top stacked players.
Right.
And he's somebody who I think is on the lower team, but is just really good.
I think Corey too kind of falls in that category too, where he's got like
They could pop
skill
off
set.
at any time. Yeah.
Right. Like if he came back and just won in a week or two, you'd be like, okay, like it's not
not
that much of a
surprising.
shock. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's obviously a lot of players, but just their skills. Like I think both of them to me are very similar. Like Corey can just throw really far. He can putt really well, smooth when he needs to be, like with putters and stuff. As you saw at the European Open, like he just played really well that week. What's one of the most underrated skills in disc golf that fans may not realize?
Short shots.
Yeah, right. No, for sure. I think
Like 100, let's say 150.
Yeah.
150 and in.
A putt.
just jump
Just
putting.
putt it, bro.
Right.
No.
Well, I think
That's why I said 150. 180.
I feel like you putt from 150.
Yeah,
Alright,
you
180.
can jump putt far.
180. For some
Long
reason,
jump putting
Let's
is
make
a
it 200. Make it 200.
200, fine. But I feel like people look at disc golf, they're like, oh, the short shots are going to be easier because everybody can throw 200 feet.
Right.
You know, but when you need to hit a gap from 200 feet, or you need to have it stop or slow down before out of bounds or something, it's tricky. And I that's one of my biggest struggles.
Because sometimes when you have to hit a gap, you want to throw it hard. But if, like you said, if you have OB 20 feet behind the basket and you got to hit a gap and then also have speed control, it's like, well, you don't want to throw it soft and miss the gap, but you also don't want to blast it through there and hit it. Go
That's
out
what's
of
so
bounds.
crazy about AB. He has, by far, it's not even close, the
farthest
furthest thrower in the world.
And touch.
And he has some of the greatest touch with that Luna he throws. I mean, I don't understand it.
Crazy.
And so that I agree with that one quite a bit. I think.
I think scrambling for me, like not even just really, I wouldn't say scrambling, but I think like, just like if there's a tree in your way and you have like an awkward stance.
Yeah.
So it goes, I guess, kind of in the same boat, like 150, 200 feet, like a shot that like is not directly in the middle of the fairway, but you just have an awkward stance. Because a lot of people, they just feel super uncomfortable with it. And so like if you can make that kind of comfortable being uncomfortable, so to say, just by practicing your footwork and going to your practice round, like that's what I used to do a lot, is I'd go into the woods and just take a step foot and throw like a patent pending or take a forehand and awkward stance, because you kind of get used to that. And if you don't practice it, you're not going to get more comfortable with it. So I think that for me is kind of, and it's not, like I said, it's not necessarily the distance. It's just feeling comfortable with the footing.
Yeah,
it's awkward.
I mean, scrambling is such an important stat because, and actually, if you look at the stats, I think you're always number one and I'm always number two.
Insane.
Yeah.
And so, like, us two being
Because
right
you're
at the
good at
top,
jump putting too. Like you can jump putt and then get a putt and then make that putt. Like that's.
And I think what really stands out between us two, and compared to a lot of the field, is our ability to throw like an Annie forehand with any disc in our bag.
Right.
I've thrown Annie forehands with my roller disc that I throw it flat, I rip it, and then it hits on the roller angle, or just that like kind of neutral throwing putter. We can throw tomahawks. I think having that sidearm in the woods is such an advantage for scrambling. So I think that's something that a lot of people are not aware of. I mean, obviously being able to putt from awkward lies, like that's why I go to a knee a lot of the times. Obviously I have long legs, so it helps me quite a bit. But I can kind of basically put my body in any position that will give me a look at the basket, and that way I can have a clean look for a putt. Same thing when it comes to scrambling. I mean, I've had some really weird stances when I'm scrambling that no one has. I think it's just so crazy. It's such a great skill to have. A lot of players almost only train from a tee pad
and so a fairway.
And a fairway, a perfect fairway. But when you can, obviously, something like hold to a decoy when you're running straight uphill, like that's almost a scramble shot in a way, because it's so like unrealistic. You almost never get into that position. So I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I think the kind of expand on that is a lot of times on the pro tour and when we play wooded courses, like Isaac, in Georgia, probably the same way. But like whenever you're like, a lot of times you have super severe angles. So like sometimes when you're in the middle of the fairway, you're still scrambling because there's like trees and it's like an awkward angle. You got to throw like around this tree and then back left. And so like there's times where you're in the fairway and you're basically like, all right, I got to scramble to get a birdie, even though you're in the fairway, So that's kind of, I think, with the way the hole designs are in disc golf and just with the dog legs and everything, is that you're scrambling when you're in the fairway sometimes, and obviously you're scrambling from the rough. So it's like a double whammy.
I think like knowing your bag is like so underrated. There's a ton of players on tour that like, I'm gonna pick on you.
You're right,
but you're actually good about it. If you don't know, Ricky bags a ton of frisbees, but he really only throws like 5.
Yeah.
So I always make fun of him for how many he bags, but he actually does a good job of, he kind of picks and chooses the discs he likes and then changes the angle of the shot. I'm very similar. I don't bag many discs. You also don't bag. Your bag is super simple. I think having a simple bag and knowing your plastic. If you can, one of my favorite drills to do for practice is I go up to a course and I throw my entire bag on a hole.
One hole.
And maybe the hole is a 300 foot straight shot.
Driver.
So I have to, maybe it's my roller fairway driver. I need to throw on a spike hyzer to get it to go straight. And there's been so many times on tour where I land in a position and I have one of those shots. And it's so useful to know the knowledge of exactly the turn point. If I throw it nose up in the air with that much spin to get it to drag left, stuff like that is just like, so many times I've been in positions where I'm just so glad I practiced that type of stuff.
Or like, it's like a thing whenever you're done with your round at your home course and you're like going back to the practice practice basket. You just chuck all your discs at the
Yeah.
basket, and you're just messing around, but at the same time, you're like
Yeah,
seeing
you're-
how they
you're
like
watching.
your
Yeah,
roller
exactly.
disc flies on a
Yep.
hyzer flip. You know?
Yep, for sure.
And so you're
yeah.
you're like soaking in that knowledge, and that's so important.
Also
We're-
bagging good discs. That's
Yeah.
underrated. People.
He's
people
like the
don't-
best person at knowing the
Yeah.
the flight of it, how it's gonna like.
Ricky just hands me a disc. Hey, is this one good? No, that one's good though.
I'll friggin' throw it and then still not know how it flies.
Yeah.
We'll just look at it and know how it flies. I'm like, oh, that's what the heck.
That's being what disc golf, being a nerd is about.
Yeah,
disc golf,
no,
yep.
it helps for
Yep.
sure.
I'm gonna make a video on that eventually. I think.
Yeah, you should do a video like just based on like the shape of it, how it's gonna fly. See
Exactly.
if you're right.
Like, oh,
Yes.
right again. Or rating Pro Tour players' bags.
right.
Like, oh, your bag's terrible.
Yeah. On the Pro Tour, obviously a lot of waiting between holes, between rounds, stuff like that. What's some of the, I guess, weirdest things you've done to kill
Why are you
time?
looking at me, bro?
I feel like it sparks something right away.
Horse clogger.
Well, I wasn't getting at that, but that's
You
not
mean
what I was
like
getting at.
after rounds?
Yeah, just like, hack. Some people hacky sack. Some people are playing
Yeah.
tic-tac-toe.
Or,
like,
or like a backup hole or something?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you do like play chess on your phone? Do you like?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Disc Golf Valley.
Disc
Valley.
Golf Valley. Okay.
I just-
Rubik's Cube. I feel like you'll
I
break
have a
out
Rubik's Cube,
or
maybe,
something.
yeah. I kind of just find it fun to look at scores. I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, someone took a 10 on this hole. How'd that happen?
Not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'd probably say looking at scores is my favorite thing to do. It's just interesting to get the stats of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Back in the day, when Northwoods Black used to be the slowest course, like we would have 45
Every
minute
other hole,
backups.
yeah.
I would bring books and I would
Yeah,
just read them.
that's
I'd
yeah.
just sit down.
Read 10 pages in a
Yeah.
round.
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much.
Easy.
Or more, yeah. That's funny. Me, I'm kind of like, I'll just go separate myself from the group and just kind of stare at nothing. Just that's what I love to
Like,
do.
what is Ricky looking
Yeah,
at?
it's more just to chill out. I don't know,
Yeah.
just kind of take a break from the grind of like the round, And I guess that's my way of doing it. Some people use Rubik's Cube. Some people stare at the sky, I'll
There you
stare at the
go.
sky and just do nothing and kind of just, reset the mind.
Yeah,
There you go.
for sure.
All right. If you had to play a whole round of disc golf with one disc, what would it be? Driver, mid-range, putter,
one's easy.
and what disc?
That's easy.
What specific disc? I know you're probably that yellow disc.
Red. Oh, my driver?
Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah.
If it's like a long course,
Either my DD3 or my PD, one of the two. They have very similar flights. I think it's any disc that I can throw really hard flat on a backhand that will like barely move to the right, because you can kind of shape a swinging hyzer, but it's also good for forehand because you get a little more glide on the forehand. So I'd say like a neutral fairway or a driver.
Cool.
Yeah. Same answer for me. I would do an Opto X Explorer.
The orange one,
Yeah.
the Ricky one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just the flat top. They're
disc.
so good.
Yeah.
And you can use it on touch shots. Like since it's flat, it doesn't go super far, so you can use it for like mid-range type shots. But then if you really need to pump it out, you can hit it on a little hyzer. It'll flip up, and it's just so good for really any kind of shot.
Yeah. For me, I'd probably say like a beat up Raptor, something like
Yeah.
kind of like what you're saying. where
You've
you
always
can,
kind of
flex
liked
it.
that fairway speed that you can
Flex.
make work. Yeah.
Yeah, forehand, backhand. If you need to throw it straight, you can flex it and land flat.
And putt with it too.
Yeah, I mean, putting's that's kind of always that's kind of the tough part. Is you either have a disc that goes far and you sacrifice putting, or vice versa.
I've seen you do that. You just like throw a beyond mad, just bang a 30-foot with a driver.
No, that's it, maybe a little exaggeration. All right, so driver. So driver, huh?
Fairway driver,
Yeah,
driver
fairways.
ish.
Alright.
It just depends. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the course too. Like if it's a short course, you may go. range.
Some like Northwoods, like I'm going with my PD all
Yeah.
day because I throw it like 8 times there, or like even like Nevin,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, putting would be the hardest, but
for sure.
you got to sacrifice somewhere. All right, this is always a question I enjoy asking: is what is some advice you would give your younger self if you could go back in time?
Ooh.
Just like growing up, obviously coming up the ranks, and things you struggled with that maybe you learned over the years that you could kind of share that knowledge with yourself.
I don't know. I wish I hit the gym when I was like 10.
Yeah, right.
I'd be like
Just
looking like
strength
AB
training.
throwing 700 feet.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've gone about it almost the right way. There's definitely been some decisions where like probably wasn't the smartest, and it kind of bit me in the butt.
So decision making.
Decision making is probably going to be most people that are young's number one thing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. Whenever you get on the pro tour, you have this infatuation with the go for it shot, and you got to be super aggressive, which you do to a certain extent. But when you get a certain skill set and you can throw that shot, it doesn't mean you have to or should. Yeah, exactly. So knowing when to be aggressive, the controlled aggression, as opposed to just like, all right, there's 550 par 4 with OB everywhere.
Let's
I'm
go
just going
for
to
it
rip at
every time.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to name players,
Right, but there's a lot of,
there's some younger players that seem like they go birdie, bogey, 10, birdie, double, triple, eagle, ace, birdie. It's like
even par.
Like the best rounds are just par, birdie, birdie, par, birdie, par.
Birdie,
It's fine to get pars as long as
Pars
you get
do not hurt.
Nope.
dude, like
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, on some holes, like if it's a par 5 on a pro tour, a par is a bogey. But like most of the time, like your pars are good, and and that's just kind of, I guess, a mental thing on the pro tour. Like most of the par 5s are just like chip shot, birdie. And if
it's
you
more
mess
about
it
like
up,
course managing. I feel like
Yeah. So I think that's kind of something that you learn, and I think we can take away from that question is like most younger players struggle with that. When to, if they feel like if you have the skill set, you must use it on every shot, as opposed to like,
I think if I caddied for some players on tour, any age, I feel like I could caddy them to a win. Honestly,
Well, a lot of times it would just be simply taking a driver out of their hand on a par 4 and just throwing a mid range or a fairway, and just saying, hey, you have the skills to do it, so that means you can throw a mid range when someone else has to throw a driver. Like that's the advantage, and it's just a consistency battle. You do that hole after hole, like throwing mid range is going to be a lot more controllable than getting a skip or turning over with a driver.
Exactly.
So they don't think about it that way, but definitely an interesting variable. All right, what's next on your radar? Either outside of disc golf or inside of disc golf. What are you looking forward to, and what are you looking forward to doing next?
Going to Europe for a month this year. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't been to the PCS course up in like northern Norway, and I heard it's beautiful, and I love nature. So I'm probably going to spend about 80% hiking and then 20% playing.
Waterfall? You live waterfall?
I'm down for anything. Yeah, super fun.
There's some cool waterfalls. We went there last year, and there's some awesome waterfalls. We just hike and waterfall into these freaking, like you said, into the woods.
That's so cool.
So majestic looking, and like feels like you're in Lord of the Rings set or something. It's crazy. What about you?
Actually, in 2 weeks we're gonna go hike Yosemite.
Oh,
so
that's gonna be fun.
Right after Champions Cup, it's down there, so we're gonna. Me and my wife.
Should do it before Champions Cup because.
No, I did it a couple years ago.
That's something on tour that's like crazy. Is like we travel a lot, but then also like unless you have like an off week, you don't get time to just stop at Yosemite for a week. Like we're playing and like people think we're just exploring all the time. It's like no, we're practicing most of the time, and like we might have a day here and there, but we don't have like a week at a time to just go do whatever.
And then I feel like there's not much to do, like especially when you get to like the Midwest. There's
Jonesboro,
really nothing to
Arkansas.
do. Yeah,
like super fun.
You play disc golf and like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take an off day today, and they're like, well, I'm bored. Let's go play some more disc golf.
Right,
like there's literally nothing to do.
So when you have an opportunity to do something like that, we almost always. I feel like,
for sure.
And the West Coast, we have so many break weeks this year that it's so nice. You can go hiking and go.
There's a lot of cool spots on the West Coast.
A lot of beaches.
Beaches,
California.
It's gonna be so cool.
Oregon has the coast of Oregon. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
For me, it's I think it's Europe. That's always a fun trip. Just going to all the different countries. We're going to Estonia, going to Finland, Norway. So just experiencing the disc golf culture over there is so much fun. Obviously, you get treated like a true professional.
For sure.
The crowds are always out in full force. Gives you that really, really good vibes, and if makes you motivated to want to make lead card and play in front of big galleries. Just for the fact that it's you want to put on a show. It's fun.
Yep.
So yeah, Europe's always a lot of fun. I think. For me, it's like obviously Finland, and then Estonia is a lot of fun just from the venue standpoint. Like, it feels like you're the closest we have to like being in an arena, for disc golf, because just the complex and everything, the way it's laid out is.
I thought Estonia was like I think my favorite city, Tallinn.
Yeah,
it's probably my favorite.
Scootering
city.
around everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Did you do that?
Oh, I mean, yeah. So we actually ferried over from Finland, ferried over to Estonia. We got off our ferry with our suitcases and then walked to our Airbnb because it was like right by the ferry port.
That's perfect.
And then from there, we used scooters the entire week. So we basically, we just got an app, got some scooters, and I'd have my bag on, 10-minute scooter ride to the course, park the scooter, play my rounds.
Yeah, you just get the app, and you get the app,
fun,
and it tells you like where the scooters are.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yep.
All right, Isaac. I think now that you've got a couple world championships under your belt, I think everyone's curious kind of what changed and what clicked to get you in the mindset to go out there and get over the hump and win.
Yeah, I think it just helps that the tournament is longer. I think the better, I would love to see it go even longer. I want 7 days. Did you ever play a 7?
Yeah, we did when we with 17. I think we played like 6 or 7.
Yeah, just I think it's so cool because it really
consistency.
It shows you who the most consistent players are,
and that's important.
Exactly.
3 rounds is not as much.
No.
Like 3 rounds,
You
it would
can
be
get
like,
hot.
right.
You might throw one.
Exactly.
So bad at 3-round events.
It's crazy. Well, because it's a sprint, not a marathon.
Yeah.
It's like, whereas that's a marathon, and players that are more consistent, which I think is the most important skill in disc golf, golf too, is you have to, over an extended period of time, have that calculated risk like we talk about.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big thing, is just it really does show who are the most consistent players. And, the past 2 years, I was able to take it down, but,
And you're the most consistent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But, like, you
when
get
you
hot,
care.
and then, and then
when you're in the right mindset, we'll put it that way.
But then you also have to, believe you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. So, but yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, is going into it with, like, it's all about, like, it's not even, obviously in the moment you got to execute and perform, but it's all about, like, leading up. How does your game feel? How does your mental feel? And that's gonna, I bet, it's hard to explain it, but, like, that's what a lot of people, they win the tournament before it starts, is what you hear a lot of time. And I'm sure you did that.
Yeah.
I did that when I won mine, as I was in a good spot mentally, physically, all that. And it kind of just, manifested in a win, just throughout the week. So I think that, the practice, the preparation, you get to build confidence in your game, that translates to the mental game, because, like I said, it's a lot easier to come back and bounce back from a mistake. And that goes back to the consistency things. Like, you're going to have a mistake, but if you're consistently throwing good shots, those mistakes are going to be a lot less than someone else.
Yeah.
And so, I think that, the confidence leading up to the tournament's the most important part. And not just telling yourself, I'm one of the best players in the world. There's a lot of players that could say that in their head, but that's not reality. So there's only probably 20 people that if they said that, it would actually really mean something, because they actually do have the skill set and the mental fortitude to go through a 5-round event and actually win and beat the best players in the world. So I think that's something that is super important.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's helped me is, over the years, I practice with the big moments in mind. So I'll be practicing in the yard, and I'll be practicing 20-footers, and in my head, I'll be like, this is for the World Championship. And then I'll putt, and I'll just kind of try to imitate that pressure and put pressure on myself. And so when I'm leading up to the week of Worlds, I'm doing that on the putting green, and I'm doing that in the field. And so I have this, like, artificial pressure that is put on myself to execute those shots, so that when you get in the moment, then it's like, oh, well, this is familiar. I know how to do this. I felt this before. And I think that helps me a lot.
For sure. And another question I kind of just came to mind is like, when you're practicing and when you're playing tournaments, you always have these little swing cues or, like, timing things. And, like, for me as a player, it's funny how it works. You go through ebbs and flows of, like, you'll do a certain movement, and then you'll just forget about doing it, and then you'll do it again, and then you'll, like, you're like, why did I ever stop doing that? And it leads to, like with a drive or a putt, you're like, you start missing shots left, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not, like, rotating my hips, or you're over rotating or something. So for me, I just want to ask you guys as well, is, like, do you have certain things that sometimes go wrong, and, like, you stop doing, and then you all of a sudden something clicks, you're like, oh, why did I stop doing that? And then you're like, all right, yeah, rotate your hips, and everything, like, clicks again. Do you have those moments?
Not so much in my form. I have it in, like, pre-shot routines.
Okay.
Where, sometime I'll just forget to do my routine, and I'll just rush a shot and, shank it or mess it up, and then I'll get halfway through the round and I'll be like, wait, I'm not doing my routine, the thing that I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And then I'll just kind of settle back into the routine, and it'll go a lot better. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny, because me and Isaac are basically polar opposites when it comes to, like, that type of stuff. Like, I basically only think about my form,
right?
Like, where are my arms at, where are my shoulders at. I was actually talking to Gavin yesterday. We were watching Isaac throw in the field. I'm like, I think Isaac, it just comes down to how much he practices before the event.
Yeah,
right. Like, literally, like, for me, that does not matter. It only matters about how my game actually feels there, because of maybe a certain swing thought, or because my form is feeling good. I remember, like, before D-Glow last year, my form was kind of off, so I tried something new. It was a swing thought where I kind of pushed the disc further back toward my left side, so I'm already kind of reached back, and all I have to do is extend my arm. And I was pinpointing the whole week of D-Glow, it felt like. I threw exactly where I wanted to every time. And so, like, I'll be on the tee box, like, all right, put my elbow here, arm here, about 2 inches up here. And I'll be like,
lead with the elbow.
I think very mechanical and very, like, just, I don't know, about that type of stuff. And so I feel like, for me, I'm the opposite, where I need to be thinking about that type of stuff, because if I just go and throw, I don't know where the disc is going to go.
They'll start doing weird things.
Yeah, I'll just start shanking. I'll just bring bad habits, old habits that I maybe had before that I had worked really hard to get rid of.
Yeah.
It'll creep back in if you don't keep it going. That's when I tell people, like, you know, when they're working on their form, when I'm helping them, is like, you can't let those bad habits creep back in. And so there's a lot of times where I'll go out to a field and I'll almost over-exaggerate what I want to happen, because then it will naturally then become your natural form. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'll maybe even push it further back than I'm used to, because then when next time I go to throw and I just feel normal, naturally I'm about 2 to 3 inches further back, which is just gonna, in turn kind of make the throw a little more natural for myself.
Yeah. No, it's funny how that works, because some people are like have to practice all the, like I'm one of those, I have to practice all the time. If I stop practicing for like 3-4 days, I'll just start shanking all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Like, but if I practice putt like every day, throw every day, then my game feels like in control. I'm in control, right? But for you, it's like, as long as, like, if you take a week off and you're like thinking about the same swing thoughts, you'll have like good form and you'll be able to throw good. Like,
for sure.
Most players are not like that.
Yeah.
Most players are just like, if they take time off, their timing is completely off.
Yeah.
Like,
something I started doing before my rounds, like starting last year, was actually like getting out to the course. I remember for like Ledgestone, for example, I would wake up in the morning, get my body warmed up, then I'd go eat like a breakfast, go out to the field, throw my bag back and forth on a similar shot that I would have on the course. So maybe I threw like my MD3 on like a hyzer flip line for whatever, hole 3 at that course. Yeah. I would throw that in the field to kind of replicate that, so my brain just like naturally knows what to do when the time comes.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the house, throw some putts, go back to the course. So I'd have this routine that would, you know, kind of get my brain prepped for the round. And I found those rounds to be just really easy. And sometimes it's tough because you don't always have the best warm-up area. Sometimes it's even hard to find a basket if you don't carry one with you. So if that comes to, you know, using a tree, you kind of have to do that.
Right.
But I think definitely for my pre-round prep and my post-round prep, I'm actually kind of similar to Isaac, where I have a routine, and I think that helps me a lot. But we just do it in different, you know, times of the day, parts of the disc golf.
Okay. Yeah. No, it makes total sense. It's just interesting. I like to get a grasp of that because everyone works differently. Some people are way more form-oriented. Isaac's more just like, hey, if I throw,
as long as it's feeling right, like it's gonna go in the right spot.
And I think there's something to be said for that, is like not overthinking it. Like, he's kind of an overthinker, but it can be a good thing too. Like when everything's good, it's a good thing.
Yep.
And but also it can also work good in a bad way too, because you're like, all right, if my form's off, I know why at least, because you're thinking and you can feel like, hey, all right, this is off. Whatever's happening is like doesn't feel right.
And I think that's why I've been able to be so consistent in the last 3-4 seasons.
You make the changes.
Is because I'm aware of what's going wrong. If I just take one video of myself, I know what's wrong, and I can fix that most of the time. At least make it an improvement. Like we were talking before, there's some weeks where you're just going to be bad, and that's just how it goes. But I feel like you can almost always make an improvement, some type of switch. I think a lot of players get stuck in their ways of just trying to, if I practice enough, I'm going to get better. It doesn't work. No. It literally does not work. So at some point, you have to be able to adjust your game, whether that means it's uncomfortable. It's probably going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate saying, you got to take 2 steps back, or 1 step back, take 2 steps forward. You know, like, so you have to get worse in that short term, changing your form, changing whatever it may be to kind of take that level up.
Yeah, and people don't see improvement in a week, and then they give up. I've seen it so many times.
And it's especially on tour, it's hard when you have a tournament that next week. You're I'm sacrificing a good finish.
That's why you do all your work in the off season.
Yeah. And then you just hope something doesn't go wrong in the season where your form feels weird, because you're gonna have to take a month to get it back.
Exactly.
You know? And I think that's another variable with our sport. Like, you don't really see that with basketball. Like, you know, if you can do this, Steph Curry's done it a gazillion times. Like, it's harder for it to go wrong, and there's no wind, there's no other factors. It's
it's a very controlled environment.
Exactly, and so that is so important, because like that can affect like bad wind drop. You didn't really do anything wrong, but you got a bad wind drop, and that can affect your confidence. And can it affect like, oh, I got to throw it a little harder because I got a wind drop, and it's like, well, the next one just lifts up. You're like, so like there's all those uncontrolled variables that actually affect your mental game if you let it. You know, and so whereas other sports that doesn't. Like if you have a good release with a basketball, and Steph Curry is so fine tuned. If it's a good release, it's in. It's not like it's gonna be there's a fan blew from the gym and just blew it out. Like that's not a thing. And that's so. Like,
I hit a dog and it rolled back in bounds. Like what are you talking about?
Right, there was a freaking fly and then on the rim and it bounced it off. Like no, but yeah. So I think that's the difference between our sport is the uncontrolled variables, and I think that's why it's so important to not let those uncontrolled variables affect your mental in a negative way, because it's easy to. you know, if you putt 2 putts the exact same way from 30 feet, one lifts over the water, over the basket, goes in the water, next one drops. You're like, well, I putted them the exact same, you know, like that's the frustrating part.
And that kind of ties into, I feel like we've all been in that situation when you're down going into a final round and you're down almost so much to where it's out of your control at that point.
But you still want to try.
You can only control what you can control. So like, you know, I've been down 5 or 6 before, and I've told myself like, you know what, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna hopefully put down to 13 under, and that's all I can do. It's all on the person in front of me to, you know, see what happens. And so I think that's another. It's kind of a tough thing to grasp because, you know, something that's been difficult for me is, you know, you gotta quit preying on people's downfall, and you gotta focus on your own game.
For sure.
You know. And once you've kind of lost that chance to be in control of the event, there's only so much you can do, and then you got to be satisfied with the effort you give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining the show today. And my foundation is also a big sponsor of the Ricky's Roundtable here, and I wanted to also throw it out there that we do the First Putt program, and we're going to do a donation to school of your choice, the high school maybe that you grew up at, each one of you. So we're gonna pick your school. What school is it that you went
Northwest Waukee High School.
Okay, do they have disc golf there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They got a big open field though. You can put some baskets in.
So I'm gonna have my foundation donate 50 discs and a basket to them.
Let's go.
So through the Sockibomb First Putt, so just basically gives kids the chance to get their first putt is what we call it. Chance to get involved with disc golf early on, and so we'll get what's the high school called?
Waukee Northwest.
Waukee Northwest High School. And
Iowa.
What's your pick?
I was homeschooled, so you
want
to donate
okay.
a basket and 50 discs to my
house? All right, well, I guess that's interesting.
We can find one.
I'm trying to think how that would work. What should we do? Homeschool? I guess, is there maybe there's like a homeschool, like, do you guys meet? Do you ever meet together?
Yeah, there's like
co-ops
and stuff.
Yeah, you meet at someone's house. Maybe we'll do that.
I'll get you a name of one.
Yeah, we'll work on that. But I just wanted to send that out there to the 2 guests, Gannon and Isaac, through the foundation.
Thank you, Rick.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you want to support me, you can buy any of my discs on Discmania. I have some cloud breakers coming out soon. My new mid-range, the Glacier, just released. So check that out, as long as also with my putting putter, the P2X, and then I have my Squatch disc golf bag, which is American flag colors. So if you like that, go ahead and support there. And then just some jerseys on Cardinal disc golf. Yep.
Awesome. Isaac?
Yeah. My actually first signature disc dropped with Latitude, so the Peak came out today, which I don't know when this is released, but Peak is out. You can support me getting one from Latitude or 1010.
Is it a mid-range or a driver?
Putter.
Okay, perfect. I was just guessing and got it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Fairway's coming out.
Is that what you putt with right now?
I use it more of a throwing putter.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, Peak is out.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. And once again, thanks for joining Ricky's Roundtable. And we'll see you guys next episode. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.